Welcome to 1 Minute to Midnight. I'm Wilfred Cunningham. This week, supporters of Moqtada Al-Sadr briefly occupied the Baghdadi Green Zone. The peace talks in the Yemeni civil war were derailed, and it was revealed that the effects of the Zika virus may have previously been underestimated. Of course, other things have been happening. The Green Zone in Baghdad was established by coalition forces after the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Checkpoints limiting access to the 10 square kilometre zone make it one of the safest places in Baghdad, if not all of Iraq. Some say that it is a bastion of the disparity in wealth and safety between the Iraqi elite and the rest of the population. But we're not talking about the Green Zone. We're talking about its occupation. Iraq's general election in 2014 left its parliament deadlocked and made it difficult to pass or reform legislation in the country, partly at least because its political system relies on muhassasa, a quota system that empowers politicians not solely on popularity, but also on their ethno-sectarian background. This came about in 2003 after Saddam Hussein, who led an authoritarian and often brutal dictatorship since 1979, was removed by a US-led coalition. The system was intended to break from Hussein's Sunni minority rule of Iraq and prevent sectarian dominance by including all of Iraq's communities. However, many have argued that this has led to a structure that lacks fluidity. Iraq's Prime Minister, who was nominated by Iraq's President Fouad Massoum on his ascension to office in 2014, is Haider al-Abadi. Al-Abadi replaced Nouri Al-Maliki, who initially refused to step down as Prime Minister and only did so after international pressure. Al-Maliki was accused, before he left office, of beginning to consolidate power along sectarian lines, with the intention of remaining Prime Minister for as long as possible. The chairman of the United States Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2011 to 2015, General Martin Dempsey, said repeatedly that the Iraqi government, under al-Maliki, had failed on its commitment to combat sectarianism. Al-Abadi has seemingly adopted reforming the parliament as a main priority of his term, but the Iraqi parliament has rejected his reform proposals 3 times, with his most recent attempt, which aimed to form a new cabinet formed largely of experts in their own fields, vehemently opposed. Often dubbed technocrats, such appointments would be a big change to a cabinet and parliament occupied largely by career politicians who many, in and out of Iraq, see as corrupt. After the latest attempt at reform, on the 30th of April, around 5,000 protesters, in the whole peacefully, occupied the international zone of Baghdad, also known as the Baghdadi Green Zone, a heavily fortified area that houses the Iraqi parliament, the embassies of other countries, and the coalition provisional authority. The demonstrators are reportedly mostly supporters of well-known Shiite cleric Moqtada Al-Sadr, who previously threatened such action before calling for his supporters to act on the 30th of April. After the fall of Hussein in 2003, Al-Sadr organised his supporters into a political movement, the Sadrist movement, which includes a military wing known as the Jaish al-Mahdi or Mahdi Army. Although a Shia himself, Sadr has constantly challenged the new Iraqi parliamentary system, even though it is much more favourable to Shias than it was under Hussein, citing the government as corrupt. The Sadrist movement have run in elections, although Al-Sadr has never stood for office. They have also carried out acts of disobedience and protest, and the Mahdi Army wing were among the first Shiite groups to confront the coalition militaries in the Shiite uprising of 2004. In 2008, Al-Sadr disbanded the group after a crackdown by Iraqi government security forces. However, he reactivated them, or some form of them, in 2014, under the new name of the Peace Companies, with the proclaimed objective of protecting Shiite shrines from ISIS. The Sadrist occupation of the Green Zone, the first of its kind, saw some representing the demonstrators issuing a series of demands, including for Al-Abadi's proposed reforms to be adopted. Later it was demanded that Al-Abadi, Massoum, and the Speaker, Salim al-Jabouri, be fired, although it is not currently clear if such demand is in addition to reform or an alternative to it. A A spokeswoman for the protesters said in a speech that they would resort to all legitimate means, including civil disobedience, to encourage the government to reform. Since then, they have left the Green Zone, reportedly to respect the annual Shiite pilgrimage to Baghdad's Imam Khadim shrine. On the same day that they left, the 1st of May, 2 suicide car bomb attacks in the southern city of Samarwa killed at least 32 people and injured 75 others. On the 2nd of May, a bomb in Baghdad killed at least 18 and wounded 45 pilgrims. It was claimed by ISIS, who have targeted Shias in Iraq for a number of years. Although the extreme Salafi group have endured territorial setbacks, it still controls a large amount of Iraq, including the country's largest city, Mosul, estimated to be home of more than 1 million people. Many have placed the reason for slow progress against ISIS in Iraq on the deadlocked government. Transparency International says that 56% of Iraqis report paying a bribe in 2010. In 2015, it rated Iraq as the 8th most corrupt country out of a list of 168. It certainly seems to need reform. The peace talks surrounding the Yemeni civil war were suspended on the 1st of May after Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthi movement, attacked Al-Maliki military base. Reuters news agency reports that the soldiers at Al-Maliki had declared themselves neutral and were not aiding the Houthi rebels, government forces, or any of the other groups or militias currently operating inside Yemen. The Houthis seized a large cache of weapons, which seems to be their likely motivation for the break-in ceasefire that has existed, to varying effect, since the 10th of April. Also on the 1st of May, a bomb detonated in front of the government building in Aden, where Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi, the president of Yemen, is leading his campaign to wrestle Yemen from Ansar Allah, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, and ISIS. The bomb is thought to have been targeting the city's security chief, Shilal Ali Shaya, but he was unharmed. The attack comes after a suicide bombing outside of Shaya's home on the 30th of April. It is believed that the attempts on Shaya's life are likely to have come from Al-Qaeda. Yemen's state news agency, Saba, which is Houthi-controlled, has accused the mostly Saudi-led coalition of also violating the ceasefire 4,000 times, saying various military actions had raised tensions. It has been argued by some analysts that Ansar Allah and the Yemeni government began the peace process because both were tired of war. If that is the case, we might ask what has changed. On the 1st of May, Dr. Sonja Rasmussen of the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that the numbers of microcephaly and other cases of birth defects that have resulted from women being infected with the Zika virus during pregnancy could be the tip of the iceberg. Only 1 in 5 people infected with Zika, which is spread mostly by mosquito bites but also by sexual contact, experience symptoms. There is no cure to Zika. However, it rarely kills those who it infects. The main worry surrounding the spread of Zika is the unquantified number of babies it may have caused brain damage in. Whilst it is estimated that 1% of women who have had Zika during pregnancy will have a child with microcephaly, it is now believed by some experts that as many as 20% of Zika-affected pregnancies will result in some form of congenital brain damage to the baby in the womb. Additionally, it is believed that many cases may have been missed, as many Zika-related birth defects are not immediately apparent in newborn babies.
I don't expect there to be large outbreaks in the continental U.S. I can't give a number to how many cases, but I can say that we can't assume we're not going to have a big problem. We know with other viruses we've had bigger problems than we expected, so we're taking this very seriously.
You have numbers for other regions in the world?
What we know from the other viruses is that 25 to 80% of the population may get the infection. We know, for instance, in Puerto Rico right now, they're having dengue virus as well as the Zika virus at the same time, so that makes it even more difficult to tease out what's causing a person's fever and rash.
The rates of dengue fever have increased 30 times in 50 years. Dengue kills around 20,000 people every year. If the media are exaggerating Zika, or if Zika is underestimated, it will probably never be as deadly as dengue fever. So, until next time, Goodbye, and try to remain calm.